Richo, how will the premiership, how will the legacy of Daniel Andrews be seen after his departure from Spring Street?
Well, I mean, sadly, COVID is what people think about when they have his name mentioned in their presence. So that's a bit tragic for him because, for 9 years he's done a pretty good job. All those arguments about the trains and when they had all those places where the trains went over the road and people were crashing, and he's fixed all of those up. He did everything that he promised he would do. That's one thing that you've got to give Andrews. If he made you a promise, he'd stick to it. And I think his record speaks for itself. You don't keep winning elections if you're not good at what you do. And he was very good at what he did.
Now, as a political operative, you've seen many come and go. He's been there more than 3,000 days. He's going to get a statue at some point, apparently, along with other premiers, long-serving premiers. But how do you rate him in terms of the political leaders you've seen? He's obviously a very big figure. He's one of the most controversial political leaders that I've covered in my 2 and a bit decades of covering politics. I
think as far as Labor's concerned, he's right up there with the Hawke, Whitlam, Brand echelon. He's so good. I'm a big fan. I think Andrews has done a sensational job, and I'm sad to see him go. But life does that to you. You don't stay forever, and he's had a good run. I think he's picked his time well, and I think he can go off into the sunset knowing he's done a pretty good job. And his family deserve to get a bit more time out of him than they've had in the last decade. So good on him, and I honestly do wish him really the very best for his future.
Richo, stay with us on our rolling coverage of the resignation of Daniel Andrews this afternoon. Andrew Clennell is with us too. I want to get your thoughts, Andrew. I thought they were really quite telling, those comments to Holly Edwards-Smith, people that you just saw on the street, and you got those that loved Daniel Andrews but didn't have anyone that they could name, not a person they could name as a possible successor. You mentioned James Merlino. Maybe he might have been someone they could have, but he's gone. He's left the parliament. It's just fascinating to think about this gulf between the persona, the profile of Andrews, and then who replaces him, who takes over.
Well, I've never seen profiles like the COVID profiles for the premiers. Their press conferences were telecast every single day. I think it will be Jacinta Allen, for my information. I'm not saying I have as good Victorian political sources as Simon Lubb, but that's the indications from the contacts that I'm speaking to. And I'll tell you what's one of the interesting aspects about that, and this is where a change like that can assist you, is she would be, I believe, correct me if I'm sure someone will text me if I'm wrong about this, only the second female Victorian Premier in history after, of course, Joan Kerner, who replaced John Cain and then lost that election. And previously, before we had some electoral success with Anna Bligh, Gladys Berejiklian and co, this was always the criticism that women would only come in when it was all was lost. They were coming towards the end of a term. Think Carmen Lawrence and think Christina Keneally. So that will indeed be another historic moment, but it will be a challenge for her. And you'd have to say, look, honestly, John Pizzuto has a big chance now. I heard what some of the other commentators who live in Victoria say, but, they talk about 7 days, a long time in politics. What about, he's given them 3 years. If they can't land a blow on this government 3 years, the key for the Liberals, who've been pretty hopeless here since Jeff Kennedy, even when they were in government, they weren't even that flash, really. They changed leader from Bayou to Napthine, is to be united. It's that simple, Kieran, to be united and disciplined. It's something the Victorian Liberals have not been able to do. And if they get that right, look, I know it's a big margin. They've got every chance, because there does come to be an it's time factor in relation to these things. And that is the opportunity for John Pizzuto and the Victorian Liberals. Jacinta Allen, as I said earlier, assuming she gets the job, she has her job well and truly cut out. Having said that, you know, I've seen things like Bob Carr was in for 10 years. Daniel Andrews was in for 9, right? Maurice Yemmer beat Peter Debnam at the subsequent election, after which they suffered their worst loss ever and turned into a corrupt government and all these sorts of things. But he won that election because Peter Debnam was so bad. So that's the other challenge for the Victorian Liberals. Make it so the opposition doesn't lose the election, which goes against, you know, what most people think about politics. Governments lose elections, but oppositions can still lose them. And you've heard people, I think even in one of those Vox Pops, they said the opposition's been so bad. That is the challenge going forward. But now they're in the game, and they haven't been for 9 years, Kieran.